Please welcome back to the stage David Gellis, Managing Correspondent of Climate Forward, and his guest, GE Vernova CEO Scott Strazik.
Good afternoon, everyone. That was incredible. I was watching. I mean, does everyone feel like that was a profound storytelling moment? So thank you, Rain. And get ready for a big afternoon of conversations. We're about to get started. Scott, thank you very much for joining us today.
David, thanks for having us.
So I just want to set the table, because GE Vernova, not necessarily a household name.
Yep.
So just to set the table here, you're one of the biggest makers of gas turbines in the world, the things that power gas turbine plants. And we know natural gas with methane is a major contributor to global warming. You're also one of the biggest makers of wind turbines in the world, which, as we know, is one of the cleanest and rapidly becoming one of the cheapest sources of clean, renewable energy. You're doing this business in an environment where we have a White House that is advocating for one of those things and actively penalizing the other. So we've got a lot to get to. But I want to start with some remarks that the president made yesterday.
Okay.
You are familiar with the remarks he made at the UN. You read that speech. What did you take away from that? And how do you, as a CEO of a publicly traded energy company, receive and process some of the things you heard when he was talking about climate change yesterday?
Well, I mean, I grew up with a grandmother that told me every day, listen, speak less, and listen more. And with this administration, it's really important to listen and to understand. What I hear consistently from the administration, whether it be last night or any time in the last year plus, is jobs really matter. Manufacturing that's been lost in the country, he cares about deeply. Energy security and energy independence, winning the space race for AI, affordability for electricity costs and how we solve those dynamics. And much more expansive words than that yesterday and many days. But when I kind of parse through that and listen from a pattern recognition perspective, those are really key priorities. Mm-hmm. And those are all priorities that we're focused on inside GE Vernova every day.
And we'll get to some of those, and we'll get to jobs. But I'm curious, when you hear him say, and I'll just quote, that climate change is the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, and that the scientific consensus on global warming was created by stupid people. Do you feel like that is language that helps or hurts a company like yours?
We certainly believe in climate change. I do, as the leader of this business. This company and myself follow the science every day, and that's what guides many of our investments. We talk every day about the need to electrify the world, and through that electrification that we will decarbonize the world, and that we will participate in communities that thrive because of us and because of the projects that we build.
So you just talked about decarbonizing the world, and yet the largest part of your business, of course, is the gas business. I wonder right now if you could just give us a snapshot of where the United States and the world is on gas demand. Because for as much talk there is about renewables growth and the quickly falling cost of solar, the reality is most grids, as certainly ours, are going to be reliant on gas for several years, even decades ahead. Where are we in sort of the growth and demand cycle for gas turbines right now? Because your company and others have real backlogs. You're not able to meet the demand right now.
We can meet the demand. We'll get to that. But I would say let's take a step back and just contextualize where we are. In the U.S., we get about 45% of our electricity every day from gas power. The world gets about 25% of its world electricity from gas. Now, when we talk about the debate between wind and gas, as an example, just go back a decade. 10 years ago in the U.S., we got about 5% of our electricity from wind and solar. Today, that's about 17%. That's good progress. At the same time, 10 years ago, we got about 33% of our electricity from gas. That's today 45%. I give that context to just say they both have grown by about the same amount in the last 10 years, and that's not a coincidence. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, gas is the force multiplier that enables a lot of that renewables to come into play. We have a number of tools that we need to basically electrify and decarbonize the world, and what we need to do is apply the right technologies where the right resources exist. Gas, wind, solar, they all have a role to play.
I want to note, when you did that math there, something clearly lost out. And I think that was coal, correct? I mean, coal used to provide a ton of the electricity in this country.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, or it's
in that context, coal has gone from 40% of the country's electricity to 20%.
Are you investing in coal power now?
We don't invest or participate in building new coal plants. We do have customers that still have coal plants running, and we do support them in servicing those plants. What we talk about internally is that we have to go where our customers are on their decarbonization journey to help them with that. That's also exactly how we enable technology shifts. We had a big 4.5 gigawatt project in Pennsylvania. It's called Homer City. It was a coal plant. We're transitioning and building a 4.5 gigawatt gas plant today. This dynamic, those numbers with wind and solar growing by more than 10 points in the last decade, gas growing by more than 10 points in the last decade, coal coming down by 20 points, is what has enabled the U.S. carbon intensity to come down by almost 30%.
So to that point, I mean, you just noted that you take coal off the grid, emissions start to come down in a pretty dramatic way. What do you make of this administration and Secretary of Energy Wright, who we're going to hear from very soon, their efforts to revive the coal industry? Does that make sense to you?
The world needs energy today, and it needs more electric power at the end of the day. We need to scale up all of these technologies we're talking about, including nuclear, which is a key part of the equation, to have enough baseload power to replace the 20% of electricity we're still getting every day from coal. We're working on all those alternatives and have a lot of confidence that we're going to get there, but we've got to get that new baseload power cut in. And in this regard, the administration's really working hard to accelerate nuclear. That's a very good fit to address the 20% of electricity we still get from coal today.
What's your dialogue like with this administration? I've covered business a long time. I spoke with a lot of CEOs who felt like, this is what their words, they said it was hard to have a dialogue with the Biden White House. Was that your experience then? And how does it contrast with your dialogue with the White House today?
More than 50% of the electrons in this country every day are powered with our equipment in the country. And when that is the state of play, it's a privilege. It's also an obligation to serve every administration with their priorities to enable this country to thrive. So whether it be the Biden administration, whether it be the Trump administration, we're here to serve. We have a history in this country with General Electric's legacy in history that's enabled a lot of what this country has become. We go into those conversations with both administrations, asking them how we can serve. And that's really what we're focused on first and foremost.
And do you feel like one or the other was more or less responsive to your needs over the years?
I think it shouldn't be a surprise whenever there's a new administration that they're going to have different priorities and different styles. Both certainly do, but we also find opportunities to partner with both. And we've found real opportunities to partner with both administrations, and that's our commitment to the country, to our shareholders, and to our employees.
Yeah. You mentioned your shareholders. The stock is up dramatically since President Trump took office. What do you attribute that to? Is that just a Trump bump? Is that just riding the coattails of the broader market rally that we've still seemed to see? Is it the gas business? How do you explain it to investors?
We're very appreciative and humbled by the market's response to GE Vernova. We've been a standalone public company for over 18 months at this point. But at the same time, I'll tell you this. What I say to our investors is that as much as the stock has gone up in the last 18 months, the potential of the company has grown faster than the stock. The reality is the world is not getting enough of its energy from electric power today. If you just take a step back, 80% of the world's energy today continues to come from liquid fuels. It continues to come from coal attached to industrial applications. That 20% should be 40%. The only way that's going to happen is with real innovation at scale, and that's what we're committed to do.
I mean, solar is the biggest source of new clean electricity coming onto the grid right now. You don't have a solar part of your portfolio. Is that something you'd be interested in acquiring? I mean, when you talk about really scaling clean energy solutions, that's where so much of the action is right now. Why aren't you in it?
There is a lot of growth with solar. There will continue to be a lot of growth with solar and storage. It's a very effective, power-dense solution in certain circumstances. We do sell inverters that create the electricity from solar. We do controls and software to support solar farms. I don't know if we're going to be building solar panels anytime soon, But we're focused on investing and positioning ourselves to serve technologies where there's resources that make sense with those technologies, and that does include solar.
Okay, let's talk about the wind business.
Yeah.
This administration has, I don't know how else to say it, sort of waged war on the offshore wind industry over the last several months. Issued a stop work order on Revolution Wind off the coast of Rhode Island, which is nearly 80% complete. You made the blades for that project. Issued stop work orders for a wind farm in Idaho, another one in New York, looks like one off the coast of Maryland may be next. What do you say, if you have this dialogue with the administration, to them as they are literally attacking one of your core businesses?
So if you just take a step back, we believe there's a role for wind to play in the U.S. energy ecosystem and in the global energy ecosystem. But again, if you go back to listening to the administration through the expansive communications and different stylistic approaches, one of the real dialogues focuses on the reliability of wind turbines, as an example. And as the CEO of one of the largest wind turbine manufacturers in the world, I would tell you that over the last decade, the quality and the performance of wind has degraded. The industry grew very fast. We created a lot of new products, and the quality in the field has come down. So for me...
Why is that? That's sort of a shocking statement for the CEO of a big wind power company to make.
We introduced, as an industry, too many products too quickly, and the supply chain struggled to keep up. And this is just brass tack facts, okay? The availability of wind farms in the country and in the world is lower than the availability of a gas plant or a nuclear facility. We have to fix that. So when you move the dialogue to the side, I am not going to cry into my beer over any of the dialogue on wind other than to create a thriving business. We are investing in our wind business. We believe wind has an important role to play. We do think there are elements of the quality performance of the industry that needs to be better. So a lot of this comes back to reliability, affordability, and those are things we're focused on. So are our orders today, in today's environment, lower for wind? They are. It's a tougher environment to have customers giving a deposit to believe in building a new wind farm in the U.S. Either we run away from that and run away from the industry, or we use this quieter lull in orders to improve the business, because the industry, generally speaking, has been too manual in industry. If I took you to a number of my factories, manufacturing blades, as an example, is a much more manual process than many other products we make. We're investing in automating that process so this industry and this business can thrive.
Do you feel like this administration's actions are going to set back the wind industry in the United States in a meaningful way?
We're playing the long game here with a number of our technologies.
And I understand, when you look at the policy changes, when you look at them canceling certain projects, saying they're not going to permit any more wind and solar projects, what's the outlook for your own business? That must have an effect.
For sure. As I just said, our orders are very soft right now on wind. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of great resources in this country, and we need to use those resources where the technology is available to optimize those resources. And one of those resources does include a lot of expansive land with really good wind. We also have very inexpensive gas. We need to take advantage of both to thrive as a country, and that's what we're focused on doing inside GE Vernova. Okay,
this administration recently took an equity stake, an ownership stake in Intel, a private company, publicly traded, but a real stalwart of corporate America. It's got NVIDIA paying a percentage of its profits on sales to China. As the CEO of a publicly traded company, are you comfortable with the U.S. government taking a stake in corporations?
I wasn't in the Intel boardroom when they made that decision, nor the NVIDIA boardroom or the Oval Office as the discussions were taking place. What I can tell you is inside GE Vernova, we're very comfortable with the capital structure that we have to serve this market. We're very comfortable with how we're set to grow and thrive, and that's what we intend to do.
Okay. How about if President Trump comes to you and says, thank you very much, we'd like an equity stake in GE Vernova? Would you be comfortable with that from a corporate governance perspective?
There's a lot of problems we have to solve every day, but we're not going to iterate on hypotheticals because that's not where we are today.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. You mentioned nuclear, and you just talked about the fact that, yes, in addition to wind, gas and nuclear can meet demand as well. But those projects take decades to produce, decades to bring on the grid, whereas wind is a much quicker solution in many cases. When you look ahead, how do you think about things like nuclear actually making a difference on what is an extremely acute problem today? I mean, as you said at the top, we're in an energy crunch right now. Electricity prices are rising for many Americans right now.
Yeah.
I think people hear you talk about nuclear and they say, like, so what? That's not going to change anything in the next 12, 24 months.
Details here matter. At the end of the day, we're building the first small 300 megawatt small modular reactor in Canada right now. We received the license to construct in the spring. We're making great progress, and that first plant will commission somewhere between 2029 and 2030. That 300 megawatts would power 300,000 households in the U.S., and the footprint size is less than an American football field. I say that because that's one of the variables that matters too, is power density and land, and small modular reactors are a great solution for that. We have our first application into the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in the U.S. We're making very good progress with that. If you go back to one of the executive orders with the expectation that applications into the NRC get approved within 18 months, we should be in construction on the first project in the U.S. in 2027 with a commitment to then be commissioning new electrons 4 years later. So this isn't decades. This is going to be a very real part of the expanding electric capacity in the U.S. in the first half of the next decade.
Okay. We've written extensively this year about as much energy as possible, but are pursuing it in extraordinarily different ways. The United States, under this administration, is really doubling down on fossil fuels, as we've heard, as we'll hear more about in just a few minutes from Secretary Wright, whereas China is really leaning in to renewables. From a competitiveness standpoint, does that worry you? I mean, not only solar and wind in China and EVs and batteries, but nuclear as well. From a geostrategic perspective, do you feel like the United States is at risk of falling behind when it comes to new energy technology for the rest of this century?
We've announced in the first 8 months of this year over $700 million of incremental investments into our factories in the U.S., 1,800 incremental hourly employees to support this growth. In complement with that, we're really challenging ourselves on another way to build the products that we do. I talked about that a little bit with wind, but it's just as applicable with gas turbines and with where we're going with the modularization of nuclear. If we're going to win this game as a country, we need to build things in a different way. We also need to permit things in a different way to move faster for us to compete and win. So I don't think this is as simple as working harder, doing what we've done in the past. As a country and as an industry and as the CEO of a business that a lot of the electrons in the world come from, we do need to invest in a different way of doing business. Because if we don't, I do have concern with our competitiveness. But that's exactly why we're making these investments. It's also why I have so much confidence that we're going to be fine and that we're going to meet this moment.
What does that mean, to be fine? I mean, because I think we've heard from a lot of guests on this stage today who don't have that confidence. They may have some optimism, but they don't have that confidence that we're going to be fine. And I think at a moment like this, people hear that, and it can almost sound flip, as if you're dismissing some of the real challenges ahead.
So the question started on, call it the race with AI, okay, in China.
Not just AI, but energy and new technologies.
Energy at large. Energy at large. We have a lot of the technology that we need. The reality is we haven't done a great job as a country at industrializing things at scale to the size that's going to be needed, but we know how to do this, and we can do this. At the same time, the customers that are driving a lot of the demand care deeply about their sustainability commitments. This is new and different. With the hyperscalers on the West Coast and the amount of time I spend with them as one of my largest customer archetypes, none of them are running away from their sustainability commitments. At the end of the day, when you want to talk about small modular reactors, or if you want to talk about carbon capture, which is a critical technology as we see it in the decade that follows, these are end customers that are going to move technologies that, in my opinion, would not have cut into the electric power system for 10 to 15 years, and it's going to get done in the first half of the next decade. So part of why I have that confidence and that conviction is because we have a new and different customer archetype that is partnering with us in a very different way on, yes, the need for more electric power today, because they are in an arms race to compete and win, but that is not running away from their sustainability commitments. And these large blocks of power with different innovative technologies will move faster at scale in this country because of those customers.
Okay, later this afternoon, Energy Secretary Wright is going to be sitting in that very chair. What would you say to him specifically on the issue of wind? What's your message to him when it comes to the wind business and the actions this administration is taking to really put its finger on the scales? You know, in a world where Republicans and businesses for the longest time have said they don't want the government picking winners and losers, it looks to a lot of people like that's exactly what's happening right here.
Understood. One of the benefits that I have in this game is we do play across all of these technologies.
Yep.
So
what would you say to him?
We don't really advocate for a technology.
You don't advocate for your own business?
What we do advocate for is the one thing that we need to fix regardless of technology, which is we need to move faster on the grid. We need to evolve permitting quickly, or we will not meet our goals. And that's permitting for many things. It's the grid, it's gas pipelines, it's carbon pipelines. We play across nuclear, wind, gas. Different folks and different economics will decide what wins and loses regardless of those. If we don't move faster on the grid, we're going to have a real challenge. And that's more than anything where if there's an ask or a focus, it's there.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
David, thank you.
Appreciate it.